The notification sound on my phone that Wednesday afternoon would forever be etched into my memory as the moment my entire world shifted on its axis. I was sitting in my cramped office cubicle, mindlessly scrolling through wedding centerpiece ideas for what I thought was going to be the most important day of my best friend's life, and mine, as her maid of honor. The irony was not lost on me later that I was literally planning her dream wedding when the dream became a nightmare. Hey girl, I've decided to go with someone else as MOH. Hope you understand. 12 words. 12 devastating, soul-crushing words that felt like a physical blow to my chest. I read the message 3 times, convinced my eyes were playing tricks on me. The pink heart emoji at the end felt like salt being ground into an already gaping wound. Hope I understand? How could anyone understand being discarded like yesterday's garbage after 15 years of unwavering friendship? My hands were trembling as I stared at the screen, waiting for the follow-up message that would explain this was some kind of sick joke. But no additional text came. Just that cold, casual dismissal, as if she were canceling a lunch date rather than destroying what I thought was an unbreakable bond. Jasmine had been my person since we were 12 years old. I was there when she got her first period during math class, and I smuggled her to the bathroom with my jacket tied around her waist. I was there when her parents divorced and she cried into my shoulder for hours, mascara staining my favorite white shirt that I never had the heart to throw away. I was there through every heartbreak, every failure, every moment when she needed someone to believe in her when she could not believe in herself. And this was how she repaid that loyalty. With a text message? The next few hours passed in a blur of disbelief and mounting rage. I called her 17 times. Each call went straight to voicemail, and by the 10th attempt, I realized she had blocked my number. The cowardice of it all made my blood boil. 15 years of friendship, and she could not even give me the courtesy of a phone conversation to explain why I was being thrown away like trash. It was not until I saw her Instagram story later that evening that the full scope of her betrayal became clear. There she was, giggling and holding champagne glasses with her cousin Madison. The same Madison who had been nothing but cruel to me throughout high school, who had called me Jasmine's little shadow, and made snide comments about my clothes, my hair, my everything. The caption read, "So excited to have my real sister as my maid of honor. Blood is thicker than water." Real sister. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. After everything we had been through together, after all the times I had chosen her over everyone else, I was not real enough. I was not family enough. I was just a placeholder until someone more aesthetically pleasing came along. The comments section was filled with heart emojis and congratulations, and I noticed that several of our mutual friends had liked the post. Friends who knew about our plans, who knew I had been her maid of honor for months. The humiliation was complete and public, and I realized that I was probably the last person to know about this change. Everyone else had been in on it while I sat in my office, planning centerpieces for a wedding where I was no longer welcome in the position I had earned through years of devotion. That night, I did something I had never done before in our entire friendship. I unfollowed her on every social media platform and deleted every photo of us together from my accounts. If she wanted to pretend I did not matter, then I would make it easy for her. But even as I hit the delete button over and over again, erasing 15 years of documented friendship, a small part of me kept hoping she would call and explain that this was all a terrible misunderstanding. She never called. The next few days were a special kind of torture. I found myself reaching for my phone constantly, wanting to text her about random things the way I always had, only to remember that she had burned our bridge to the ground. I would see something funny and think, Jasmine would love this. Then remember that Jasmine apparently no longer cared what I thought about anything. But it was the financial reality that really drove home how thoroughly I had been used. In the months leading up to her wedding, I had spent over $3,000 that I honestly could not afford. I had taken unpaid days off work to go dress shopping with her, venue hunting, cake tasting. I had organized and paid for her entire bachelorette weekend in Nashville, complete with a limo, VIP treatment at 3 different bars, and matching t-shirts that said Jasmine's last ride, that now felt like a cruel joke. I had maxed out my credit card buying the bridesmaid dress she had specifically chosen, a $400 monstrosity in a shade of salmon that made me look like I had a terrible sunburn. I had booked and paid for hair and makeup appointments, shoes that I would never wear again, and a gift for her that had taken me weeks to find because I wanted it to be perfect. All of that money, all of that time, all of that emotional investment, gone. And for what? So her cousin could look better in photos? It was on Friday night, exactly 1 week after receiving that life-altering text message, that everything changed again. I was wallowing in my apartment, surrounded by takeout containers and wearing the same pajamas for the 3rd day in a row, when my phone buzzed with a message from an unexpected source. Hey, I know this might seem random, but I wanted to reach out. I heard about what happened with the wedding stuff, and I just wanted to say that Jazz is being ridiculous. You were always the better friend anyway. Want to grab a drink sometime? Liam. Liam. Jasmine's future brother-in-law. I had met him several times at various family gatherings and pre-wedding events, and he had always been kind to me. Not just polite, genuinely kind. He was the type of person who remembered small details about conversations and asked follow-up questions that showed he had actually been listening. He was also devastatingly handsome in a way that seemed almost unfair, tall, with dark hair and eyes that crinkled when he smiled, and a laugh that could light up an entire room. I had noticed him, of course. What woman would not? But he was off-limits, firmly placed in the friend's future family member category that made any romantic thoughts inappropriate. Besides, I had always assumed someone that attractive would be taken or completely out of my league. But here he was, reaching out to me in my darkest hour, offering kindness when everyone else had seemingly chosen sides against me. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a long time before I finally typed back. I would love that. When were you thinking? How about tomorrow night? I know a great little place downtown. Nothing fancy, just good food and better company. For the first time in a week, I smiled. A real smile, not the fake ones I had been forcing for concerned coworkers and nosy neighbors. Maybe this was exactly what I needed. A distraction. A chance to remember that there were still good people in the world who valued loyalty and kindness. I spent Saturday afternoon doing something I had not done since receiving that devastating text. I took care of myself. I went to the salon and got my hair done. I bought a new outfit that made me feel confident and beautiful. I did my makeup with extra care and looked in the mirror at a woman who was ready to reclaim her life. The restaurant Liam had chosen was perfect. Intimate without being overly romantic, with dim lighting and a cozy atmosphere that made conversation easy. He was waiting for me at a corner table, and when he stood to greet me, I was struck again by how genuinely attractive he was. But more than that, I was struck by the warmth in his eyes when he looked at me. "You look beautiful," he said, and there was something in his voice that made me believe he truly meant it. "Thank you for this," I replied as we sat down. I really needed to get out of my head. "I can imagine. What she did to you was completely inexcusable." The way he said it, with such conviction and genuine anger on my behalf, made my chest tight with emotion. When was the last time someone had been angry for me rather than at me? We talked for hours that night. About everything and nothing. About our jobs, our dreams, our families. About books we had read, and places we wanted to travel. He told me about his work as a graphic designer, about the novel he was trying to write in his spare time. I told him about my job in marketing, about my secret dream of starting my own event planning business someday. But we also talked about the elephant in the room, Jasmine, and what she had done. "I have to be honest," Liam said as we shared dessert. "I never understood what my brother saw in her. She always seemed so superficial. But you? You are the real deal. You are kind and smart and funny, and the way you loved her, even when she did not deserve it. That says everything about your character. I just do not understand how someone I trusted completely could throw me away so easily," I admitted, surprised by how much I wanted to share with him. "Because she never deserved your trust in the first place," he said simply. "Real friends do not treat each other that way. Real friends do not trade you in for a newer model when it suits them." There was something about the way he looked at me when he said that, like he saw me, really saw me, in a way that felt both thrilling and terrifying. When he walked me to my car that night, there was a moment of hesitation, a charged silence that felt full of possibility. But he did not try to kiss me. Instead, he squeezed my hand gently and said, "I would really like to do this again." "So would I I replied and meant it completely. That first date turned into a second, then a third. Within 2 weeks, we were talking every day, seeing each other whenever our schedules allowed. Liam was everything I had not known I was looking for: intelligent, funny, ambitious, and incredibly kind. He listened when I talked, remembered details from previous conversations, and had a way of making me feel like the most interesting person in the room. But more than that, he saw the real me. Not the version of myself I had shaped to fit into Jasmine's life, but the person I actually was when I was not trying to be anyone else. With him, I felt free to be fully myself for the first time in years. It was during our 4th date, over Italian food and wine, that made me feel brave, that he told me something that changed everything. "I have a confession," he said, looking almost nervous. "I have had a crush on you for months. Since the first time I met you, actually. But you were always so focused on Jasmine, so devoted to being her friend, that I never thought I had a chance." "You had a crush on me?" I asked, genuinely shocked. "Are you kidding? You are amazing. You are beautiful and smart and have this incredible energy that just draws people in. I used to look forward to family events just because I knew you would be there. I would find excuses to talk to you, hoping you would notice me too." The revelation was staggering. All those times I had thought he was just being polite, he had actually been interested in me. All those conversations I had replayed in my mind, wondering if I was reading too much into his kindness. I had not been imagining the connection after all. "I noticed you," I admitted. "I just thought you were off limits." "Well," he said with that devastating smile, "I am not off limits now." By the time Jasmine's wedding rolled around 6 weeks later, Liam and I were inseparable. I did not attend the ceremony, obviously, but I saw the photos on social media. Madison in the salmon dress I should have been wearing, standing where I should have been standing. It should have hurt more than it did, but I found that I was surprisingly okay. Better than okay, actually. I was happy. The wedding looked beautiful but generic, like something out of a catalog rather than a reflection of Jasmine's personality. But then again, maybe that was her personality. All surface, no substance. Maybe I had been projecting depth onto someone who had never possessed it in the first place. 2 weeks after her wedding, Liam and I were having dinner at our favorite restaurant when he suddenly got down on one knee. The entire restaurant went quiet, and I felt my heart stop beating. "I know this is fast," he said, his voice shaking slightly, "but I have never been more sure of anything in my life. You are my person, and I want to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you make me. Will you marry me?" Through tears that I could not stop, I said yes. Of course I said yes. The ring was perfect, not the biggest diamond in the world, but chosen specifically for me, with a vintage setting that reflected my style perfectly. It was everything the ring Jasmine had picked out for herself was not. Personal, thoughtful, and chosen with love rather than showmanship. Our families were thrilled about the engagement, though they were concerned about the timeline when we announced we wanted a short engagement. Liam's parents, who had become like second parents to me in the brief time I had known them, insisted on helping us plan a beautiful wedding in just 4 months. "Life is short," his mother said, hugging me tightly. "When you know you know. And anyone can see that you two are meant to be together." Planning my own wedding was a completely different experience than planning Jasmine's had been. Every decision felt meaningful because it was ours, chosen together based on what we actually wanted rather than what would look good on social media. We chose a venue that was beautiful but intimate, flowers that smelled amazing rather than just photographed well, food that we actually wanted to eat rather than what was trendy. But the most satisfying part was choosing my bridal party. I had several close friends from work and college who were thrilled to be included. But for my maid of honor, I chose my sister Sarah, who had always been there for me but had lived in another state during my friendship with Jasmine. And then, in what I can only describe as a moment of divine inspiration or temporary insanity, I decided to invite Jasmine to be one of my bridesmaids. I sent the invitation with a handwritten note. "Despite everything that happened, you were such an important part of my life for so many years. I would love for you to be part of this special day. No hard feelings, just love." It was a calculated risk, but I knew Jasmine well enough to predict her response. She could not say no without looking petty and vindictive to everyone who knew our history. And she could not say yes without admitting that she had been wrong to treat me the way she had. She said yes, of course, with a text message that was clearly crafted to sound gracious while containing just a hint of condescension. I would be honored to be part of your special day. So happy you found someone. The weeks leading up to my wedding were a whirlwind of final preparations, but everything fell into place beautifully. My dress was a dream. Nothing like the one Jasmine had chosen, but perfect for me. Elegant and timeless, with delicate lace details and a train that made me feel like royalty. The morning of my wedding, I woke up feeling calm and happy in a way I had never experienced before. This was it. The day I had dreamed of since I was a little girl. But better because it was real and it was mine and it was happening with the right person. My bridal party gathered at the hotel for hair and makeup, and I watched in the mirror as I was transformed into a bride. Sarah was by my side the entire time, making sure I stayed calm and happy and fed. She was everything a maid of honor should be. Supportive, organized, and completely focused on making my day perfect. Jasmine arrived looking stunning, as always, but there was something different about her. She seemed smaller somehow, less confident than I remembered. She complimented my dress and flowers, but her words felt hollow, like she was going through the motions rather than speaking from the heart. But I was too happy to care about her attitude. This was my day, and nothing was going to ruin it. The ceremony was being held at a historic mansion with beautiful gardens, and as we prepared to line up for the processional, disaster struck. Sarah, my maid of honor, stepped off the curb wrong and twisted her ankle so badly that she could not put weight on it. "I am so sorry," she said through tears of pain and frustration. "I cannot walk down the aisle like this. What are we going to do?" For a moment, panic set in. The music was about to start, guests were seated, and my maid of honor was sitting on the ground clutching her ankle. But then I looked at Jasmine, standing there in her bridesmaid dress, and suddenly I knew exactly what to do. "Jasmine," I said, my voice perfectly calm. "You have always had excellent taste in weddings and you know how important these details are. Would you mind stepping in as maid of honor? Just for the ceremony?" The color drained from her face as she realized what I was asking. Everyone was looking at her. The other bridesmaids, the wedding coordinator, my family members who had heard about what she had done to me. She could not say no without looking terrible, but saying yes meant admitting that I was the bride and she was just a bridesmaid. That I had won, in the most public way possible. "Of course," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I would be honored." And that was how Jasmine ended up walking down the aisle behind me, holding the train of my wedding dress, on what should have been one of the happiest days of her life, but had instead become the day she had to publicly acknowledge that karma was real. As we made our way down the aisle, I could not help but think about the symmetry of it all. Months ago, she had replaced me without warning or explanation, thinking she was upgrading to something better. But now here she was, literally walking in my shadow, holding up the train of my dress while I walked toward the man who had chosen me over everyone else. The ceremony itself was perfect. Liam's eyes never left mine as I walked toward him, and when I reached the altar he whispered, "You are the most beautiful bride I have ever seen." We wrote our own vows, and as I promised to love him through all of life's ups and downs, to be his partner and best friend and biggest supporter, I felt like I was finally becoming the person I was meant to be. Not someone's shadow or backup plan, but a woman worthy of being chosen first. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Liam kissed me like I was the only woman in the world, and I knew that everything I had been through to get to this moment had been worth it. The reception was magical. Our first dance was to a song that actually meant something to us, not just something that sounded good. The food was delicious, the cake was perfectly moist, and everyone seemed to be having an amazing time. But the best part was watching the faces of people who knew our history. They could see that this was not some rebound relationship or revenge scheme gone too far. This was real love, the kind that makes everyone around it want to be better, do better, love better. Jasmine left early, claiming she had a headache, but not before approaching me during the reception. "Congratulations," she said, and for the first time in months, she sounded sincere. "You look really happy." "I am," I replied simply. "I really am." She nodded, looking like she wanted to say more, but then she just walked away. I watched her go and felt something I had not expected. Pity. Not satisfaction or vindication, but genuine sadness for someone who had thrown away something real for something superficial, and would probably spend the rest of her life wondering why she felt so empty. Later that night, as Liam and I danced to our last song of the evening, he whispered in my ear, "Do you know how much I love you?" "Show me," I whispered back, and he spun me around the dance floor like we were the only two people in the world. As we drove away from our reception toward our honeymoon, I thought about the woman I had been a year ago, so focused on being the perfect friend that I had forgotten to be the perfect me. That woman would have been devastated by Jasmine's betrayal, and would have spent months trying to figure out what she had done wrong. But I was not that woman anymore. I was a woman who knew her worth, who had found someone who valued her completely, who had learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can lead to the best thing that happens to you. Jasmine had replaced me as her maid of honor, thinking she was getting an upgrade. But in doing so, she had set in motion a series of events that led me to the love of my life, and her to holding my train as I walked toward my happily ever after. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I learned that the best revenge is not revenge at all. It is living so well, loving so completely, and becoming so genuinely happy that the person who hurt you becomes irrelevant to your story except as the catalyst that led you to where you were always supposed to be. She wanted to replace me? That was fine. I replaced her entire role in my life with someone who actually deserved to be there. And as Liam carried me over the threshold of our honeymoon suite, I realized that some replacements are not downgrades at all. Sometimes they are the upgrade you never knew you needed. If you enjoyed this story of karma, love, and ultimate redemption, please subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories that will make you believe in second chances and the power of knowing your worth. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You would not want to miss what happens when life serves justice in the most unexpected ways.